Imagine living in a country where you can practice your faith freely, as long as you do it behind closed doors. Where Sunday Mass is treated like a hobby, and public schools schedule events on the Lord's Day because it's just another day. Where speaking up for human dignity gets you accused of violating the Constitution. This is the reality for Catholics in Japan today. Cardinal Tarcisio Isao Kikuchi, the Archbishop of Tokyo, calls it polite persecution, and it's threatening the very soul of the Church in a nation where Catholics make up less than 1% of the population. In a recent interview with Crux, Cardinal Kikuchi laid out the painful paradox. Japan's post-war constitution guarantees religious freedom and strict separation of church and state, a reaction to the dark days when State Shinto was used to justify war and suppress Christianity. But that same separation has been twisted into something new. Religious activities are generally welcomed by the public as long as they remain confined within their own premises, such as temples and churches, Kikuchi explained. However, the principle of separation between state and religion is often misunderstood to mean that religious matters should never appear in the public arena. When the Church speaks out on migrants, nuclear weapons, or human dignity, the response is swift: "You're being too political." Religion in Japanese society is not recognized as a moral authority. The numbers tell a heartbreaking story. More than 20,000 people die by suicide in Japan every year. Migrant workers face isolation and abuse. Disabled persons are marginalized, some even murdered because they were deemed useless to society. And the Church, which should be a prophetic voice, finds itself silenced by politeness. But here's where the story gets complicated. Cardinal Kikuchi has been a powerful advocate for migrants and nuclear disarmament. He's called for fair treatment of foreigners and warned against the dangers of isolation in modern Japan. Yet critics point to what he doesn't talk about. In a nation where surgical abortion is legal up to 22 weeks, with 126,734 procedures in 2023 alone, where is the Cardinal's voice for the unborn? When adolescents account for over 33% of those abortions, why does migration get more attention than the most vulnerable human beings? The Cardinal has previously spoken against abortion. In 2019, before Pope Francis's visit to Japan, he wrote powerfully about the need to protect all life in a society that does not respect human life. But today, his public advocacy focuses elsewhere. And then there's the LGBT question. Cardinal Kikuchi has allowed special masses for LGBT Catholic Japan in his archdiocese and contributed to a book on LGBT and Christianity. Some faithful wonder, why embrace a movement that contradicts church teaching while remaining silent on the unborn? The Cardinal's defenders would argue that in a nation where Christians are a tiny minority, you pick your battles. Japan's population has declined for 16 straight years, down 900,000 in 2024 alone. The elderly are isolated. The young see no future. Maybe, they say, the gospel of life needs to be proclaimed differently here. But others see a troubling pattern, a progressive cardinal aligned with Pope Francis's vision of a synodal church who speaks boldly on climate and migration, but whispers on the things that cost you something. The Georgetown Journal of International Affairs recently noted that Japan's strict separation of church and state has roots in the 1947 Constitution, imposed after World War II, to prevent religion from ever again being used to justify militarism. But the Unification Church scandal erupted following Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's assassination, exposed how deeply politics and religion remain entangled, just not with Christianity. Cardinal Kikuchi is right that Japanese Catholics face a unique form of pressure. When your entire community can fit in a small hall, speaking truth to power feels risky. But maybe the question isn't whether the Church should speak, it's what the Church should speak about. And for Catholics watching from the pews, the silence on some subjects speaks louder than any press release.